Good morning, everybody. So, I thought today we would talk about boundaries and emotions. I know for myself, being in toxic relationships in my past has been an issue, and I can only blame myself because obviously I was picking the wrong partners. So, that was definitely an area of my life that I had to heal. Again, being a victim, starting from childhood, it's a struggle, right? So even though we, got the short end of the stick with starting out our lives, we also have the responsibility and the accountability to be able to take control of our lives, take the bull by the horns, and try to do what we can to make ourselves better and improve our lives. Hence why I make these videos and share them with you. My last several relationships were very toxic and unhealthy, and I dealt with a lot of shit that I put up with for way, way too long, right? Me being such a compassionate person and having people give up on me, it made me not want to give up on others, So I gave people the benefit of the doubt and tons of opportunities to, come correct and be the positive influence in my life that I was trying to be in theirs, right? Unfortunately, this is probably one of my most latest lessons that I've conquered, and I feel so empowered because, again, I was choosing these unhealthy and toxic partners based on my past experiences, right? So those who have abuse in their past, especially neglect and abuse starting from a childhood, right? I know I can only speak for myself, but I tended to disassociate a lot from my emotions. I was also desensitized too, right? So not a lot of stuff would bother me due to the trauma through growing up and all that, right? So, we have to think to ourselves, and realize, when are we cutting ourselves off from our emotions or when we're putting up with more than we probably should. This is when I really started to get insight into being able to set boundaries in healthy relationships, right? I feel like people who have gone through these types of situations are some of the most kindest, understanding people because they've had these life experiences that they can relate to others. So they're less judgmental and a lot more understanding, right? Well, when we're like this type of energy and personality seems to attract those who need healing but don't know they need healing. People with narcissistic tendencies and selfish tendencies. And of course, we want to help try to fix them or nurse them back to by showing them the love and compassion that we never got through not giving up on them and things like this, right? This is a difficult lesson to learn because, again, when we get in these situations, a lot of times these people present to us the person who seems to be our everything, right? They're exactly what we envision for our life as a partner. Every box is checked on that checklist, all of this. But a lot of times those people wear and can wear masks. So we have to be able to, number one, be able to recognize when we're in these unhealthy relationships. And, again, at first, they always seem healthy, right? Or else we wouldn't get into them. So we have all those good feelings and they feel really good and we enjoy being around them. And we seem to have so much in common with these individuals. Again, checking all of those boxes, right? But again, at some point, if you're in an unhealthy or toxic relationship, those behaviors and those traits seem to come few and far between, right? And their personality seems to change. So you'll see things like them being judgmental towards others. That's a sign that I definitely see in these people, some of these people that I've been engaged with in the past. That was a red flag, right? So being able to notice, are they judgmental towards others? Again, if they're nasty or rude or making fun of or degrading or anything, anybody, that says a lot about who they are because it's just a matter of time, most likely, when they're going to do it to you. Also recognizing, when these individuals, I know for me, it was recognizing, I found somebody, I felt like they matched my ideal partner. We had so much in common. Our values matched everything. However, then their personality started to change and I would recognize them being rude to others or, engaging in bragging and talking about what they had and, the things that they can do and their power and their rank and all this different stuff. And if you think about it, people who are usually very centered and peaceful and powerful and joyous, they're not real loud like that, right? So for me, myself, to be able to set boundaries, I had to recognize, hey, no matter what these people presented to me in the past, how am I feeling right now in this current moment, right? And then I started to recognize, this doesn't feel good. I'm having negative feelings, or I'm feeling worse about myself, or I'm not completing my goals, or I'm not engaging in my hobbies and my friends and different things like this. And if that's the case, it's okay to bail out, to let that ship sink, If people aren't making you feel good and supportive, granted, everybody's going to have conflict and everybody's going to fight. But if somebody is degrading, calling names, trying to put others down in any way, it's okay to say, hey, I'm not that kind of person and I'm not going to put up with that stuff. I know this is, I kind of built up that muscle through time. So some of my past prior relationships, one of them, I'm all for the LGBTQ community, and I was going to participate in the parade, with my crisis response and work. And, they would make comments about it. And I started confronting them because when I got with them, they didn't seem to be this kind of person at all. But then I started noticing, and so I actually confronted them because I'm not the type that's going to sit around and put up with anybody degrading or anything anybody else. Now, it's one thing if you want to do it to me, because I'm so set in myself and I have analyzed myself in my own individual case study for 15 years, and I'm very confident, know who I am, and I'm comfortable in my choices. So I don't care what people do to me because I know I'm strong and I'm going to get through it no matter what. However, when they do it to other people, that's when I get really upset, and I'm going to do everything to stick up for them. So I don't care if you're my partner or what, but so anyway, back to the story. So he was making comments, well, I wouldn't do that in front of them. And that was a huge red flag for me, right? Because just because you want to make nasty comments or be rude or show bias to the LGBTQ community in front of them, I don't care about that. I don't want those kind of people around me. Anybody that's going to judge anybody else or put anybody else down for any reason needs to just cut that with the cord. So anyway, with that being said, this is how I learn boundaries, and hopefully some of y'all can learn from that as well. Follow your emotions, what you see. If it feels good, follow it. If it feels bad, sink ship.